Did you know that County Clare has a peninsula that very few people take the time to visit? Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Loop Head. Hi, welcome again to the Traveling in Ireland podcast. Today, I am taking you off the beaten trail because did you know that County Clare has a rather undiscovered peninsula, complete with stunning views, a towering lighthouse, and dolphin tours? Today, I am joined by Carmel Hough, who is the co-owner of Emerald Irish Tours. Now, you may remember me speaking with her sister Martina back in episode 202 when we were out and she was sharing everything about Kilkee, County Clare's Victorian village. So if you haven't heard that one, pop backwards. Before we dive into the podcast, though, I do want to give you just a quick reminder. If you visit a place that you heard about on the podcast, be sure to let them know. This helps me to get more great guests on the show and share more terrific Ireland attractions and tips. So don't forget to be a name dropper and say, I heard about you on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. If you have the Aran Islands on your itinerary, I want to make sure that you know my friend Ollie because he leads one of the funnest tours to Inisheer that you're going to find. Ollie, you want to tell him about it?
Sure thing, Jody. So the Aran Islands are on most people's bucket list. So there are three of them: Inisheer, Inishmaan, and Inishmore. We visit Inisheer because, number one, I grew up on the island. I spent a lot of time there. Number two, it's the easiest island to get to with only a 20-minute boat ride. When you get off the boat with us, we take you straight past the chaos that is the pier and hop you onto a bike tour that lasts around 2 hours. What's really cool and why you should do the tour with us is because we know the island like the back of our hand and we bring you to places on the island when nobody else is there. So you really feel like even on the busiest of days that you have the whole island to yourself. Afterwards, and this is not to be understated, this is possibly the best part of the tour. People book the tour for a bike tour, but they end up reviewing about the following. We do a cool tea, coffee and scone experience where we sit down in a small little cafe, privately reserved seating. Islanders will tell us stories about their life, and you have some of the best scones you'll ever have in your entire life. Guaranteed. Afterwards, of course, Jody, you'll have some time to do some Aran sweater shopping if you'd like, or go to the pub for a cheeky pint. En route back to Doolin, you will have the option of going via the Cliffs of Moher if that's what you're into. So if you have any more questions or you're interested in booking, you can visit my website at olliestours.com. Woohoo!
Forget to mention that you heard about Ollie's tours on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. You can book and get more information at IrelandFamilyVacations.com/Ollie. OLLIE. So, Carmel, I am really excited to learn more about Loop Head. This is an area of County Clare that is really overlooked by so many people who maybe follow the Wild Atlantic Way from Galway down to the Cliffs of Moher, and then they'll head straight to the ferry to head south. So can you tell us about maybe the highlights of the area, or should we begin with Kilkee as that's kind of the gateway to the peninsula?
Yeah, Jody, super to be on the show, and hi all the listeners. We are based here on Loop Head, and Kilkee is what we refer to as a hidden gem.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some amazing scenery. It's not too populated. It's got some great food, great places to stay, great scenery, lots of fresh air, lots of natural beauty. And yes, it is largely overlooked. For what reason? We're really not sure.
It's off that beaten trail, right? It's like so many places in Ireland. The buses go a certain route, and those are the places that people know about. But when you get into, or off of, I should say, that tourist trail, I think that's when the Ireland that so many people imagine. I hear so often authentic experiences and, away from the crowds. But actually doing that seems to be difficult.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jody. It is getting kind of away from the crowds. It is the place that people don't typically know of. They haven't heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a lot more authentic than some of the other kind of, tourist trail regions. When we bring people out as, tour guides, hands down, people tell us it's way their favorite place to go. So that feedback comes to us regularly, that it's just a nice place to be. And it has a lot of authenticity that you don't find in some other regions that can be overcrowded and overwhelmed with tourists. So we're always delighted to share our peninsula with others that come to see us.
So what is it about the Loop Head Peninsula that makes it a good day trip? I mean, obviously it's super easy to reach, whether you're staying in Lahinch or even Doolin. Obviously, you said Kilkee, lovely little village, some places to stay around there. What is it about the day trip out onto the peninsula? What would people do, and what should they make sure to keep in mind?
Sure. So firstly, in terms of where people stay, so Loop Head is quite reachable, but you probably want to dedicate an overnight to Loop Head, to somewhere in the area. Like, it's not too practical to reach it as a day trip from the other touristy areas like Galway or Dingle or things like that. You probably want to spend a night there to really get the full experience. You could stay in the local town of Kilkee. You could stay in Lahinch, in our town of Ennis. There are a lot of different places that you can stay. We have a few lovely hotels in Kilkee. We have the Stella Maris Hotel, which is a super family-owned hotel. We have Bayview Hotel, which is an award-winning family-run hotel. And then we have lots of lovely little B&Bs like Rosewood Cottage or Glencarrig B&B, or, a countryside one, maybe like the Hilltop. So we have lots of different options. We have even camping options, if you like. We have two great camping or glamping areas, Green Acres and Pure Space. So there's lots of options. And then if you want to go at the other extreme, something really nice, you can always stay at Dromoland Castle. So that's within about an hour of the Loop Head Peninsula. So we've all types of accommodation in the region. So you can have your choice, literally. Now, when you get here, in terms of things to do, well, consider Kilkee as your gateway town.
Mm-hmm.
So Kilkee is a Victorian seaside town that came around in Napoleonic times. And it's a lovely beach town. So you can sit down there for a couple of hours, have a stroll around. There's a beach. There's an amazing cliff walk there that goes right by the ocean. That's a lovely cliff hike. It takes about 30 minutes or, as long as you wish. So that's one thing to do in Kilkee. And there's an amazing cliff drive also that leads you out of Kilkee, which is little known about. Once you get out onto Loop Head, then the world's your oyster. We have the Loop Head e-bikes, which you can hire an e-bike and just cycle around the countryside roads, which is pretty amazing. We have the Loop Head
And the roads
Lighthouse.
aren't that busy, so you don't have to worry about it, especially bus traffic. That just isn't out there. So if you want a great rural ride with beautiful views, that's probably one of the best you're going to find.
It is. It really is. I mean, the road leading out of Kilkee going back along the cliffs is beyond stunning. There's no comparison. It's jaw-dropping. It really is. And, once you get out on your bike, you can explore. You can stop in the little towns and villages along the way, get something to eat, bring a picnic, whatever you like. We have walking tours also from Loop Head. So we have a fabulous guide there in Loop Head, Martin Hawk Walking Tours. If you like the ocean and you're happy to do some motorsports adventures, we have Nevsail. They do paddleboarding, kayaking, surfing for all ages. If you like fishing, we have a great guide out there, Sean Maguire, who does fishing adventures. And we have also Luke Aston, which is another deep sea angling boat that goes out. And we have golf. We have the other standard things that you'd have in an area. We have horse riding in Carmen's riding school. So there's so many
loads
things
of activities for sure.
There's tons of activities, or you can just take a private guided tour with ourselves if you like, if you want to just visit the little areas that are lesser known about. There's so much to do in so little time.
So when you're out on Loop Head, like I mentioned, there is the Lighthouse. There are the land bridges, or the land bridge that is super famous, hits a lot of high notes for people. But then there's also the Little Ark. So can you tell us about those, kind of the things that people maybe know about and what makes those special?
Yes. So these are things that you can visit by yourself. and that are just lovely little hidden gems in the area. The first one is called the Bridges of Ross, and they are natural sea arches. There's about a 10-minute hike out to get to the sea arch. You park in the parking lot. If you put it into your Google Maps, you'll find Bridges of Ross. And just stunning scenery, stunning Atlantic coastal scenery. Some of the oldest geology, some of the oldest rock in County Clare is out there in the rock that's 320 million years old. So you can pop out to the Bridges of Ross, and then after that, just down the road, a few kilometres, is a super sweet little church called the Church of the Little Ark, which is famous for housing a little historic ark from the 1850s.
Can you define what that is? Because when Martina took me there last spring, so it's been a year, it was something that I didn't know anything about. And even though it's very simple, I found it incredibly moving and so interesting.
Yes, and that reaction is very typical of people that we bring there, Jody. So it's out in a very rural area near the tip of Loop Head. So you're very close to the Lighthouse. Back in the 1850s in Ireland, we had a series of laws called the penal laws because we were a colony. So in the penal laws, they were very tricky. The three of the worst of the penal laws were you weren't allowed to practice the religion of Catholicism. You weren't allowed to speak the Irish language anymore, the native language. And you weren't allowed to own any land if you were Catholic. So very, very oppressive laws. So the Catholic network was very strong in Ireland at the time, and it was really a network that held people together in their opposition of the occupation of the times. But that was outlawed. That religion was kind of outlawed, and there were no permissions to build new churches. And the local priest was very determined that he would have a little church of his own. But in the meantime, he didn't get that for many years. So in the meantime, what the locals did was, inspired by this local priest, they built this little wooden structure called an ark. And the whole idea was they didn't have a church, so they had to keep a candle lit in the outdoors. And that was really difficult in the Irish weather, as you can imagine. So the priest could be inside in this little wooden structure, and he could keep the candle lit. So that was a requirement for Mass. So the wooden structure allowed them to keep the candle lit. And then, as you know, the Mass was outlawed. So they weren't allowed to practice Mass on anybody's land. So they understood that in the local laws, nobody could own the foreshore in Ireland. So the foreshore is the area of ground between high and low tide. Okay, so when the tide goes out, you have several meters, you have 30 meters or more, or I don't know the exact amount, but something like that. So they'd wheel the little ark down to the foreshore, which is no man's land, and then they could openly say Mass and nobody could be prosecuted. So when the laws finally eased a bit and the local priest was allowed to build his church, Father Meehan, the church took over from the Little Ark, and they could all say Mass inside now, and they didn't have to go to these extremes where they were wheeling around the Little Ark to a different farmhouse every week to keep it hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So they built the Church of the Little Ark to take over from the Little Ark. And there's a special room. If you enter the church and you walk down to the altar and you go left, you'll see a beautiful little wooden structure, unrestored and untouched since the time of the Little Ark. And there you can go in and you can see pictures of it and read history of it. And it's very, very, very authentic. It's as authentic as you're going to get.
It's, I'm not Catholic, so I know nothing about the religion, but I think it was just everything people went to hold on to their way of life during that time is just so moving. I think it just speaks to the endurance of the Irish people. And that is probably one of the things that I've seen or experienced that really just shows you what they've endured and what they've done to continue on even under such oppression. So I just found that to be one of the most incredible places I've been.
It is. It just tells, it's not necessarily about the religion. It's really about their struggle to hold on and to find a way to get through, to overcome laws that, were trying to oppress and eradicate their culture, because the religion was their culture also. So it tells a story. And like all little country churches in Ireland, if you're on the way out the door and you look up in the little porch, you'll see a picture of the Little Ark in the stained glass. So often the stained glass tells us the story of the little Irish country churches. So make sure you take a look.
Yeah, look at the stained glass. Excellent.
It's a Harry Clark stained glass window. Yeah, it's a super little window. There, as you leave the church, it's the Little Ark. Yeah, the Church of the Little
Incredible.
Ark.
I think that's one of the best spots that people can visit to really get a true understanding of what, especially if their families left Ireland in any time in the 19th century.
For sure.
I think that the story of the Little Ark it's a story everybody should know.
Yeah, and it was everyone's story. It was everyone's story back then, and it was the place that people left, and it will help people to understand the conditions that they were living in at the time they left. It was pure desperation and
Right.
extreme poverty. So it's nice to have these little places that we can go to connect with that and to help us have a deeper understanding of what that was like at the time in an area of such natural beauty.
Right.
Yeah.
And dangerous beauty. To be clear, there is a lighthouse, like I mentioned, at the end of the peninsula, and that's available for tours. I know I've climbed it at least once. And then there's the walk around the edge of it as well.
Yes. So the Loop Head Lighthouse is a super destination. They do amazing guided tours every 30 or 40 minutes, where it's one of the few lighthouses in Ireland that you can go into. You can climb all the way to the top. And when you get to the top, you can go out onto the balcony.
Mhm.
Wowee. So
yeah, it'll whip you around on a windy day.
it sure will. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So up you go and out you go, and then you have a 360-degree panoramic view of the Shannon estuary, the Great River Shannon, where it meets the Atlantic Ocean. You'll have the River Shannon on your left, the Atlantic Ocean on your right. And that's where we have the breeding ground for all the bottlenose dolphins as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a visit to the Loop Head Lighthouse is definitely a must. And after your visit, you can walk around the lighthouse, go down to the coastal areas. It's where they filmed one of the Star Trek films down there in the last couple of years. Star Wars.
Yeah. That's one that hasn't been publicized very much. I would say that if they had publicized that, you would have a stream of visitors out there.
Probably so. It was very exciting at the time when they all arrived to do filming. And
isn't there one of the World War II ground signs out there as well? Or am I mistaken?
Yes, there is. So it's called an ERA sign. ERA, E-I-R-E, is a Gaelic for Ireland, the Gaelic word for Ireland. And in World War II, flight was, it was becoming new, a particularly transatlantic flight. Mm-hmm. So it was primitive, at the time. And the pilots were going back and forth from the US, and they were aiming for Germany, and they weren't too interested in Ireland. But what we did was we built a number of piles of rocks on the ground, and we wrote the word ERA, E-I-R-E, in the rocks. And then a byproduct of lighting the light in the lighthouse was you'd get this white ash. And they'd mix the white ash with water and they'd paint the pile of stones. So all of a sudden you could see the word ERA if you were up in the sky. Mm-hmm. And you were flying across. Now each ERA sign had a number. Loop Head Lighthouse was number 43. So we were a neutral country and we weren't really helping out in the war, but of course we secretly were. So we put together a map of all the ERA signs and their numbers. And then we sent that off to the US to our friends. who were flying over with primitive instrumentation. And when they got to the Irish coast, this would have been the first landmass they would have gotten to in for about 3,000 miles.
Right.
So it was like, okay, here you are. Now you're over Era 43. So this is where you are. So it was basically helping them with their, primitive
Yeah,
instruments.
navigation signs.
Navigation signs. And it was also like, hello, we're Ireland.
Don't
Hold
drop
back the
anything
guns
on us.
just yet. Yeah, keep going. So we have a lovely Era sign, Era 43 out there as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot.
Lots of history and a beautiful area. Lots of nesting seabirds as well, which you can see.
So Loop Head, again, off that tourist trail, beautiful, quiet peninsula, all the things that you look to a peninsula for, right? The beautiful scenery, the wildlife, the coastal sites, things like that. So when people are thinking about adding the Loop Head to their itinerary, this isn't a pass-through site. This is not some place that you're going to, you're going to drive from Galway, you're going to do the Cliffs of Moher, go around Loop Head and head south. I mean, you could. It would be a very, very long day. So you're really looking at staying overnight, at least one night in the area to really get all of it. And then, head back to Kilkee and have a seaweed bath at the Therapy Center, which is probably one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You couldn't argue with that one for sure. Yeah. I mean, you really need, if you want to check a box that you've been there, it's not really the place for you. If you want to immerse, if you really want to immerse in Irish culture and have a very authentic experience, then, this is the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after all this lighthousing and Church of the Little Ark and Bridges of Ross, you'll be hungry and you'll be thirsty. So we have just the spots for you.
Yeah.
We have Keating's Bar and restaurant out there near the lighthouse. Lovely pint of Guinness, great Irish coffee. We have the Long Dock
Long Dock is so
award-winning
good.
restaurant. Oh my God, the food is amazing.
So good.
It's coming up to lunchtime now, so it's the thoughts of the food in the Long Dock are super, very nice, traditional Irish pub restaurant known for good food and hospitality. So there are lots of places, and then you come back into Kilkee and you have the Pantry, Lear Restaurant, Miles Creek, Irish House Cafe, Holly's Cafe,
Holly's,
yeah.
Nice
super
scones
cafe.
there.
Oh, delicious. Yeah, with cream and jam. Yeah, hard to beat. And then a nice coffee. So
Yeah. So I think that for the right person, this is going to be a really exciting destination for them to add to their itinerary. If they want to slow down, take it in, and they're not in a hurry, this is just an ideal destination. So let's talk a little bit about your business, Emerald Irish Tours. Now, I have worked with yourself and Martina for a couple of years now, and you have provided so much insight to my own clients, as well as to me just personally. If I reach out to you and say, hey, what about this? What about that? You're just so very helpful. So can you talk a little bit about Emerald Irish Tours, the services you provide, and what people can expect if they are looking for a driver-guided tour with you?
yes. So one of the most exciting things that can happen for Martina and I is that somebody wants to come to Ireland. That's the most exciting thing that can ever happen. So once that's happened and they want to come, we are the people that you would get in touch with to start building your itinerary, start figuring out where do you want to go and what sites do you want to see and what kinds of foods do you want to eat and what experiences do you want to have. Are you interested in nature? Are you more scenery? Are you more foodies? Are you good pubs and traditional Irish music? What is it that you really like? Would you like a little castle overnight somewhere? Or, what is it that you like? So once we figure that out and we begin chatting with you, then we start building your itinerary. Once the itinerary is done, then we assign you a driver and vehicle, a driver guide and a vehicle. And we operate Mercedes V-Class vehicles that are suitable for chauffeur drive experiences in Ireland. So basically, you have your itinerary that we work with you via phone and email, and we do that over a series of weeks or months or days or whatever time you need. And once that itinerary is ready, then you arrive in Ireland and your driver guide meets you at the airport with a sign with your name on it. And then off you go on tour around Ireland for a week. So we recommend the best places to stay, the best foods to eat, the best experiences to have, where's good, where's not great, where you'll have to deal with lines, where there'll be no lines, what's authentic, what to avoid. Or we just take your own itinerary if that's you've already figured out all this yourself.
And what you do is you provide the expert advice for people to have an amazing trip.
Yes, because we're on the ground here. So we're on the ground and we've been doing this for a long time. So we know what's good, we know what's not good. And it's equally as important to know what's not good as it is to know what's good, because when you don't know, you don't know. So we also help people in terms of visiting places where their ancestors have come from. So that's very important to us because it can help people to come full circle. We can give history and stories of the areas that your ancestors have come from. So that's a very important connection for people out there that want to really learn a little bit, understand a little bit about, where their family roots originated. So that's another important aspect of what we do.
So how can people get in touch with you or follow you on social for more?
Yeah. So, really, phone and email, they're number one for us. Our email address is info@emeraldirishtours.com, info@emeraldirishtours.com, or visit our website at www.emeraldirishtours.com. Or if you'd like to give us a call, you're welcome. Our number is +353 87 960 2047. But typically, if you'd like to just drop us an email, we can set up a time for us to call you, because we're international. So that's typically how it works. People drop us an email saying, hey, I'm interested. I'm coming to Ireland. I'd like to work with you or explore pricing.
I'd like to know more.
Yeah.
And my listeners know that all of that information is going to be available in the show notes. So there's no need to take notes or write anything down. Just pop into your show notes and you will find it and be able to easily contact Carmel and Martina.
Super, super. And I'm sure Martina will be back on the next podcast, Jody, but she sends her apologies today.
Absolutely, no worries. It's nice to have you on with me as well. So now I've had both of you join me.
Super. And you've been an amazing partner over the last couple of years, Jody. And we find that your listeners that are coming through to us and coming on vacation, we're really enjoying hearing from them. So a big shout out to you and a big thumbs up for your listeners.
Thank you. So before I let you go, because like you said, it's coming up to lunchtime and probably, lots going on. We're getting into kind of the pickup into the tourism season. So things are starting to get a little busier. So when people are thinking about Loop Head and there are so many experiences and the natural places to visit and things like that, what would you say are 3 spots that they should definitely make sure, out of everything, what 3 spots should they be sure to have on their itinerary?
So I would say Kilkee Cliff Walk, Cliff Drive, and Loop Head Lighthouse.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
And if you make it to those 3 spots, you'll
You'll
automatically
find everything
end up
else.
going to You'll find the Kilbaha Gallery as well, which is
nice little gallery.
A beautiful area where you can do a little shopping for local contemporary artists, and an amazing sculptor there, Seamus Connolly, produces some beautiful local work. So that's very authentic and that's worth taking a look at also.
Yeah, it's a lovely little shop. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to join me to talk about Loop Head and share this area of County Clare that so many people just kind of scoot past without even realizing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We look forward to all your listeners getting in touch and we'll put together an amazing itinerary for them.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jody. Take care.
So, what do you think? Is Loop Head maybe for you? Let me tell you, if you enjoy a slower pace, not being rushed, and being away from the tour buses and the busyness, this is an exceptional area to visit. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on your podcast app, visit the Ireland Family Vacations Facebook page to leave a review there, or visit Trustpilot at irelandfamilyvacations.com/trust and just say something nice. I would really appreciate it. If you have questions or comments on this episode, you can email me, Jody, Jody, at irelandfamilyvacations.com. As always, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, slán go fóill.